A cool light filled the familiar hallway, a light that immediately let me know where I was. My home. Laughing filled the sunlit room I made my way towards, the sound loving and echoing around me. My heart blossomed at the sound, knowing who it came from. I wanted to run, to join my sister in her bedroom at our estate, to talk and laugh and comfort her. But my walking was so slow, so etchingly slow, as the sound of laughter became quieter and quieter with each step I took towards Kyomiko's joyful voice. It was like moving through the mud. My feet dragged millions of pounds behind me in an attempt to make it to my sister, to bask in her happiness. The edges around me darkened. The sound that had been vibrating around me grew so quiet that it began to be replaced by a wicked sort of ringing, a screaming noise that covered up the sound, converging into a violent, blood-curdling scream. I tried to run, to demand my legs to move. The sloth-like movements only increased, the hallway darkening before I could even get close to my sister's room. The scenery changed again, the scream of my sister warping into another sound. My own scream. The dark void lessened, as if my eyes were adjusting to the new scenery, and without a blink, I knew where I was. Ecstasy as the pain shot through my back, the ache my body was forced into at the hit of the cane against my bare skin. It took a half and a second of me to recognize the space, emotions and fear and pain and determination coursing through me. My old training room. My flesh was struck again, whipped, and there, at the end of the room, where she had always sat whilst I had been training, sat my mother, queen of the underworld, and I was chained, kneeled before her as my brother slammed into my sacred flesh, over and over again. I tried not to scream, to have the dignity to reel in pain and shot through every inch, every strike. My mother had no emotion upon her face. That is until my brother finally ceased his whipping. My back was numb as I inhaled, my breathing ragged, as though my breath would be my last. It was agonizing, torturous. You truly believe you would be enough to save her? My mother's voice echoed around me, the same way my sister's laugh had. Why was I here? Was I not with Akaza? A terrifying dread filled my body as a thought that went through me next. I was sent home. I was caught by my mother and sent home. Akaza had left. He had left me to my family's control once more. My freedom had come to its end with him. I choked on nothing, my pain ridden back, throbbing with each breath I inhaled. My mother sneered down at me from where she sat, an evil queen without a throne. You failed. You are not enough to save her. My heart stopped clean at my mother's words, the sound of them only now coming to terms inside my mind, after the ringing of agony ceased enough for her voice to let me in. You are useless. All the time and effort I put into training you was all for nothing, she said, deadly calm. Kumiko has died because you could not save her. You are not enough, Yin. I tried to scream at them, but no sound came from out of my mouth. My mother nodded to my brother, who held that wooden cane, and struck me again. The wind blocked out of my lungs, my vision blurred. I failed. My sister died while I had been tasting freedom. My brother struck me again, the training room becoming all too small now. Again, he hit. Again. She was dead. I could not save her. Useless, worthless, a waste. She was dead. My brother raised the cane, and I braced myself, welcoming the hit he was to bestow upon me. I gasped, my hands reaching for my back as echoes of pain still roamed through me. It was dark. My breathing completely unwavered as I took in my surroundings. The familiar scent of the forest coated my lungs, yet my ragged breaths would not cease. Only then did I realize and see next to me the familiar thing, the one thing that told me what was happening, where I was, and who I was with. Akaza's eyes came to view, lightening up in the dark. The worry within them would make me pause if I had already been out of breath. Yin, he said with surprising gentleness. The demon before me made no move to reach out to touch me, though it looked as though he wanted to. You were dreaming. It was just a dream. I stared at him, eyes wide as I now became fully aware of the sweat that lingered every inch of my body. My ears were ringing, my stomach churning with nausea. The feeling hit me so strong that I felt my throat begin to burn as I leaned over, emptying my stomach onto the grass beside me. Over and over again, I vomited at the scenes of my subconsciousness playing out in my mind. My eyes watered at the taste of bland smug in my mouth. My throat, though none of it compared to the pain that still echoed within my head. I felt myself shaking as I spoke, needing to explain to him what my dream had happened. I was being whipped. My sister. I heaved once more, shaking my hands as they kept up with me. She was dead. Blue-tipped hands that came into view for a second, if only to grab my hair and pull it away from my face as it blurred again, hardly anything coming out at all. I gasped on it, as if trying to remove the pain, the dream itself from my body. It was a dream. Akaza repeated with the same soothing tone. I could hardly keep myself up, feeling lightheaded now thanks to the hurling. Stars flashed across my vision, and only the demon continued to hold back my hair as I bent over, trying to control my body and mind. A wholeness raged through me. I heard her laugh, I said through breaths. She and I was trying to get to her to run, but I couldn't. Akaza said nothing as I spoke. I wasn't even sure why I was doing so either. I couldn't get to her. My eyes began to blur for a bit, and I cursed myself for letting him see me this way, for being so weak. She was dead, I forced out, my voice cracking with the effort. Akaza tightened his grip on that. He was dead, and it was all my fault. I felt the tears fall one by one from my eyes, yet I couldn't stop them no matter how hard I tried. My mother, my brother, I trailed off, reaching for my back. It had felt so real, a pain that I had grown so used to growing up, something that I hadn't experienced since then. Even so, nothing could compare to such agony. Akaza's hand lay gently atop of mine. I had to force myself not to flinch at the touch. He must have sensed it, for his hesitation had toned through, especially as I turned to face him, his eyes holding a type of pain that I now realized he was burdening from me. The pity in his eyes, it made me want to rage against the world itself. But again, it was something I never expected to see him, though. He cares. Your sister is not dead, Yin, he said logically. It was always the logic with him. That was definitely something I grew to like about him. He had taught me to lead with my head, not my heart. I don't believe you have failed her in any way. I stared at him for a moment, shaking my head. I have, though. My voice was barely more than a whisper. The dream was a remember that I came to realize. A reminder that I could fail my sister at any time. I was slacking, enjoying too much of my life. I had to remember what my goal was. And Akaza's sudden grip on my chin, not hard, but just enough to advertise that it forced me to look directly at him. His pink brows were creased together angrily, not directed at me, but at the situation, the way I was feeling. I blinked slowly at him, taking in his features whilst trying to calm my raging heart. Tell me, Ian. Tell me something. You have told me about your past, your family. He tilted his head. I breathed in carefully, unable to peel my eyes from his concentration on me. You say that you are failing your sister because you simply aren't doing enough to save her from her illness. A chill went through his words before I nodded. It was my duty to do so. I rasped. The demon frown deepened. Why? I paused, not knowing how to respond, though I didn't have to, for Akaza spoke again. Why is it that it is your duty? Because has anyone else in your family gone to such lengths to save her? The question took you off guard. Of course they'd help in whatever way they could. My brother, even my mother, had partaken in my sister's illness. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. They'd. The sound of the cane against my back flashed throughout my mind, surfacing the memory of not only the dream, but the experience of it growing up. The vision of the 9-year-old girl forced to her knees, her flesh being destroyed with every hit that reminded her that she had to work harder, become stronger. I shook my head, not letting out a breathy laugh. Akaza widened his eyes, leaning forward a bit at the sound. How is it that you always know more about me than I do? I asked, eyeing him oddly. His shock at the newfound attitude wore off. Well, being a demon for as long as I have? He shrugged, his own grin forming. I suppose it's easy to read you humans, now that I am not one. I nodded, still trying to shake the memory from my head, but the last part of his words made me pause. Do you have any memories of your past? As a human, I mean? He raised his brow. You knew I used to be human? He asked. I shifted my shoulders in a shrug. Of course I know, I stated, from the moment you mentioned your master and how he gifted you this. But I also knew before, simply from the way you were. I let out a deep breath. Silence, falling over us for what felt like quite a while. Monsters are made, not born, I added on, my voice a careless breath. I didn't allow myself to wonder why I even felt the need to say it. Do you even know where the meeting is taking place? I asked Akaza, half running to keep up with him half a day later. He sighed, fingers twitching at his side. Do you really need to ask me so many questions? He shot back. I glanced, despite knowing he was simply teasing me, trying to keep my mind off of things and the events from last night. Answer my question and I'll answer yours, I said sweetly, batting my eyelashes at him, and Akaza only watched that odd way of his, analyzing the movement as he peeked over his shoulder at me. To be quite honest, he began, no, I don't know where the meeting is taking place, only the general area of it. Some of my comrades will be meeting us any time now. I grimaced. So you're saying we're already being stalked by demons that want to take me hostage for whatever reason and bring me to this meeting in which I had no say in? Akaza laughed, the sound oddly cheery for the miserable mood I was in. We'd been walking around in what felt like circles and what led to nowhere for hours. Apparently, we were just to wait until their master's little minions came to take us whenever it was the meeting to take place. An icy breeze blew past me, and I had to fight my shudder, especially to the lack of clothing I had on me. Ugh. I've always been aware of our plan from the start, the role I had to play into, as well as the role Akaza would have to partake in as well. The clothing, however, it was hardly more than a shawl that covered the necessary parts. Many, many parts of my skin were exposed to the chilling air, goosebumps, flesh following in its wake. I swallowed my nerves, trying not to feel any lower in this outfit than I already was. It's not real, Yin. This role is simply yours to survive. You can go through this. Akaza suddenly halted his walk, and I almost slammed onto his back. What? Walk in front of me, he said, and the forest seemingly looked a bit dimmer, as if the life had been drained out of it, instead being replaced with an ancient power. At the warning tone of his voice, I did so without question, following his orders. Before I could move to the front of him, however, Akaza caught my wrist, pulling me back gently until I was pressed up against his exposed chest. His golden eyes bored into my own, my breath caught in my throat. Are you ready? He asked so quietly I could hardly hear him as he scanned my face, scanning for any sense of doubt, of fear. I swallowed, nodding. I was ready. His features softened then into a look I rarely got to see from him. I was surprised he would risk being seen this way when his friends could appear at any moment. He leaned in to press his lips against my own, and at the direct contact, I practically forgot all about the meeting as my heart skipped into a gallop into my chest. He pulled away briefly in an inch, whispering against my tender lips, still aching for him. I want to apologize. I began to shake my head. You have nothing to say sorry for. I never wanted this, he said, a sense of dread coating his words. I don't want you to think this is who I really am. I placed a hand on his cheek. I know exactly who you are, no matter what happens in this meeting. I will never forget. He closed his eyes, smiling against my lips. No one will harm you today. I promise you that, though you are more than capable on your own now. I grinned as I kissed him once more, pulling away as I spoke. You give me too much credit. Light dances in his eyes for only a moment before it fell, as if a single in itself had etched into his eyes. I shifted my own features, fitting into the front of him as we continued our walk, utterly silent for the next 10 minutes. Each passing moment, flickering of power raged through the forest, like a war song. They etched and echoed through each hit or a beat of drum. Then it was all quiet. And so the game begins. Akaza whispered more to himself than anything. The forest itself frozen, almost within the demon behind me, forcing me to halt as well, not dare to breathe, even when the sound of a beautiful string sounded. A single chord from an instrument I hadn't exactly sure how to place with those notes, though I was hardly given much time to reflect, because one strike of the sound was all it took before the forest was no longer in front of our eyes. I'd even finished blinking before I beheld the room we were in now, though the view of many demons who filled the chamber, noting sucking in the breath out of my lungs more than the power that emanates from all the higher beings around me. In that very moment, fear, true as ever, struck me so deep in a way I had never felt before. Some of the demons smiled at me, their fangs gleaming under the lantern light above. Akaza placed a hand on my back, an act but also a way of comforting me. As if he could smell the fear the way I could sense the demons in their power, his steady hand reminded me that he was there for me. I could not have his face alone. Although Akaza was one of them, he was my ally, my friend, my savior, and so much more. And so I willed the fear to show in my face, willed every bit of terror to seep into my pores, the poor, scared little human they wished to see. The act Akaza had placed upon me in order for me to survive this. I had nothing against those creatures, but with the way their gaze lingered along my body as I walked, the sway of my hips, the thin cloth revealing far too much for me, I remained in my rage, my desire to suddenly snatch their faces off. Scared, weak, cowling. This was who I was today. I didn't dare look at Akaza behind me, suddenly not wishing to see the face that I knew would look up upon me as though I were a stranger, no emotion towards aside from power, the way he had been before we met. I had a strong gut feeling that if I were to gaze at him, my act would fall in an instant. And so I looked ahead, straight to the demon whose aura radiated quite differently from the others, an aura of joy and excitement at the mere sight of me. My eyes fell upon his mist-colored eyes, the soothed pans of his face, quite beautiful in a way, or they would have been if he didn't ooze hunger and power behind that smile. He clasped, bringing his hands together by his face. "Oh, I'm so glad you two could make it," he said cheerfully. It took quite a bit of effort to hide my surprise at his attitude. "How is your journey here, my friends?" I could practically feel Akaza's rage oozing out of him. I tried to take it in with the other demons, another one studying me with an odd intensity. The one thing they had in common was the labeling within their eyes. The same as the demon who led me towards them. A combination of ranks. I forced my eyes to look at the floor instead directly, taking in my surroundings and the unique demons around me. The dark wood shone lightly under the lamplight, my eyes straining with the effort to keep them there. Scared, afraid. Let them see you in that way they want to. We stopped suddenly, Akaza halting our walk. I inhaled, feeling his hand remove itself from my back. And that's when I know the meeting begins now.